Welcome back to Mr. DuPage's classroom. This lesson is for my Algebra 1 class. It is 6.6 perpendicular lines. Two lines that intersect at a 90-degree right angle are perpendicular. Use a ruler to create a line that is perpendicular to the given line. Since I don't have a ruler, what we're going to do is we're going to skip down to the next bit of information, then we're going to come back to that section, okay? So if two lines are perpendicular, it means that their slopes are opposite reciprocals. Opposite reciprocals. What it means by opposite is, in this case, this slope is 1/2. So for the equation, the second line, it would be y equals negative, because that was positive 1/2. So the opposite is negative. Then 1/2, its reciprocal would be 2 over 1. So it's negative 2 over 1x, and then minus 3. So if I go ahead and plot that line, it would be, start at negative 3 again. It would be up 2, well, it would be down 2, right 1, or it would be up 2, left 1. If I go ahead and make that line, what you're going to notice is I have a 90-degree angle to the original line. So in order to write that as the point slope form, what I'm going to do is I will have y minus, the point I'm going to use is this point negative 1, negative 1, okay? So it actually be y plus 1 is equal to negative 2 over 1, which would really just be negative 2, times x plus 1. So those are a couple different ways that I could write an equation that is perpendicular to the original, okay? What piece of information do we need to determine whether the lines of two equations are parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Well, if you remember the parallel, how I know if they're parallel or not is if they have the same slope. Perpendicular, I would know if they're perpendicular if they have the opposite reciprocal slope, and it would be neither if neither one of those two situations was true. So if we don't want to graph them to see if they are parallel, reciprocal, or parallel, perpendicular, or neither, what we need to find out is their slope. We would just have to look at their slope, okay? So reminder on point slope form, hopefully you don't need it at this point, but it's y minus y1 equals the slope times x minus x1. So are these two lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Well, the easiest way to tell the slope is in the top equation there, where our slope would be 4. So this slope is positive 4. Let's figure out what the slope is of the second line. In order to do that, I would subtract 2x from both sides, which would get me 4y is equal to negative 2x plus 24. Then I could divide by 4. So y would equal negative 2 over 4x plus 6. Well, negative 2 over 4, I can simplify. If I simplify negative 2 over 4, it would turn into negative 1/2 x. Is negative 1/2 the same as 4? Well, it's not. Is it the opposite reciprocal of 4? Well, the opposite reciprocal of 4 would be negative 1 over 4. So since negative 1/2 is not the opposite reciprocal, then it's not perpendicular. So this would not be parallel, and it would not be perpendicular, so it would be neither. Our answer would be neither. Okay. On to problem number 2. Again, in order to find out if my second line has the same slope as my first line, which is that, my slope of my first line is negative 1 over 2. So what we're looking for a parallel slope would be negative 1 over 2. For a perpendicular slope, we're looking for a positive 2 over 1 or just a positive 2. And if it's anything else, then it'll be neither. So in order to put that into slope-intercept form, I need to solve for y. So I'll subtract 2x from both sides. That would get me negative y is equal to negative 2x minus 3. If I divide by negative 1, then my equation would be y equals, well, negative 2 divided by negative 1 would be positive 2, x plus 3, because negative 3 divided by negative 1 is positive 3. I could rewrite 2 over 1, or 2 as 2 over 1. So let's compare these two. Are they opposite reciprocals? Yes, they are. So this would be perpendicular. That would be a perpendicular line. All right. On to example 2. Write an equation for the line that contains the given point and is perpendicular to the given line. Write your final answer in point-slope form. So the original slope is 5. What would be the opposite reciprocal of positive 5? Well, the opposite would be negative. The reciprocal, I could have 5 is 5 over 1, so it would really be 1 over 5. So the slope I'm going to use is negative 1 over 5. The point is that point there. I don't need to go ahead and rewrite that. So what we're going to do is we're going to write this in point-slope form. So it would be y opposite of negative 2, so positive 2, is equal to negative 1 over 5 times x. Opposite of 0 could just be negative 0. Okay. Since that's not in simplest form, let's continue. It would be y plus 2 is equal to negative 1 over 5x. That is in simplest form, and that is a perpendicular line, so we are good. On to problem number 4. The slope I need to use is the opposite reciprocal. That's positive 3 over 4. That's the original slope is positive 3 over 4. I need the opposite, so it'll be negative, and the reciprocal, so 4 over 3. The point I'm going to use is this 6, 8. So it'd be y opposite of 8, so negative 8 is equal to negative 4 over 3 times x. The opposite of 6 is negative 6. And there is my perpendicular equation. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the back. Example 2 continued. Write an equation for the line that contains the given point and is perpendicular to the given line. So we're the same idea to start with. Write your final answer in slope-intercept form. So now we're writing it in y equals mx plus b form. Okay. So the slope of the original line is going to be positive 1. So that could really be rewritten as 1 over 1. So the opposite would be negative 1 over 1, which is really just negative 1. I would have y minus the opposite of 6, or y the opposite of 6 is negative 6. And negative 1 times x, the opposite of 4, is negative 4. And then I need to write it in slope-intercept form. So I need to distribute first. So negative 1 times x, negative 1 times negative 4. So y minus 6 is equal to negative x plus 4. Okay, it's negative x plus 4. In order to get y by itself, I need to add 6 to both sides. So y equals negative x plus 10. So that equation will be perpendicular to my original. Okay. On to problem 6. This says y equals negative 3. Anytime that I have a y equals equation, my slope for this, my m value, sorry about that, my m value is going to be 0. Well, what is the opposite reciprocal of 0? Well, I can think of 0 as 0 over 1. So the opposite reciprocal would be negative 1 over 0. Can I have 0 in the denominator? We've talked about this numerous times before. I cannot have 0 in the denominator, which means that my slope is going to be undefined. If my slope is undefined, I can't exactly write a slope-intercept form equation, but what I can do, anytime my slope is undefined, my equation is going to be x equals, and in this case, it's just going to equal the x value from the point we're looking at, so x equals 4. Okay? That would be my perpendicular line. And if you think about that, it would make sense. If I had a graph of y equals negative 3, so y equals negative 3, it goes through the point 4, 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not sure how I can go through point 4, 2, but say y equals negative 3, my graph would be horizontal at negative 3, okay? My new equation is going to go through the point 4, 2, I'm sorry. So there, my new equations go through that point. Well, if x equals 4, I'm going to have a vertical line at 4. Well, there I have two lines that intersect and make a 90-degree angle. Okay. On to problem 7. The slope in problem 7 is going to be undefined. What's another way to write an undefined slope? It would be 1 over 0. So for our slope that we're going to use, it's going to be 0 over 1, which is 0. It could be negative 0 over 1. 0 can't exactly be negative, so it's just going to be 0. Anytime that I have a 0 slope, I know that my equation is going to be y equals. What does y equal? What point? Well, in this case, it would be 9. Okay? So for our perpendicular line, it would be y equals 9. Again, my x equals is a vertical line. My y equals is a horizontal line. So when those two cross, it will be perfectly perpendicular. On to the last problem. I have y equals negative 2 over 3x plus 1. Well, the slope I need to use will be the opposite reciprocal. So the original slope was negative 2 over 3. My new slope is going to be positive 3 over 2. I'm just going to flip that fraction. Okay. Now I can use my point. So y opposite of 10 would be negative 10 is equal to 3 over 2 times x. Opposite of 3 would be negative 3. I need to distribute. So y minus 10 will equal 3 over 2x. 3 over 2 times negative 3 would be negative 9 over 2. So it would be minus 9 over 2. So now I need to go ahead and add my 10 to both sides. So y would equal 3 over 2x. How can I take negative 9 over 2 and add 10? Well, you don't need to write this down, just pay attention. Negative 9 over 2 plus, I need to have the same denominator. So I need to turn 10 into an equation, or into a fraction that has 2 in the denominator. It would be 20 over 2. Well, negative 9 plus 20 would be positive 11. If I have the 2 in the denominator in both fractions, then my answer will have a 2 in the denominator as well. So then my answer would be plus 11 over 2. Okay? Well, that is the end of our lesson. Just remember, the most important thing about today's lesson was that a perpendicular line, the two slopes are going to be opposite reciprocals. If you have any questions over today's lesson, please make sure you come in and see me or ask me right before class starts. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching the video and have a great day.